All right, so we are live, everyone. My name is Jesse, and I am with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. For those joining us for the first time, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. And of course, there are no classrooms right now. All of you guys are stuck at home, so we really appreciate you tuning in on YouTube as we continue to highlight amazing scientists, explorers, and facilities from across the globe. Today is special too because we are continuing our epic SciComm Storytime series. So every day at 2 p.m. Eastern or 11 a.m. Pacific time, we are featuring some of the rock stars of science communication, people from all manner of fields, every kind of topic you can imagine. And today's sessions is a little unique even by that standard, so I'm really excited to dive in. So we are joined live in Toronto by Sarah Habibi. She is the Science Bay on Instagram and on social media. She has over 20,000 followers that follow her really unique and fascinating blend of using science, beauty, and makeup to explain really, really fantastic concepts. She is at Ontario Technical University and she is a pharmacology researcher there. So we're going to learn a little bit more about what she does and her epic and really unique science communication platform. So without further ado, thank you so much for joining us today, Sarah, and take it away.
Thank you so much, Jesse, for the amazing introduction. I am really excited to be talking to all of you today. So I will start off with opening my presentation for you all. We're good? Awesome. So as he said, my name is Sarah Habibi and also known as Science Bay on Instagram. You can also find me on Twitter at Your Science Bay and visit my website for all the fun stuff like videos, presentations, and just all the cool talks that I've been able to do in the past at yoursciencebay.com. I'm going to dive right into this talk and tell you a little bit about me because this is my SciComm story. So first off, who am I? Well, as you mentioned, I am a PhD candidate at Ontario Tech University, and I work in the broader field of molecular biology with a very specific focus in parasitology and pharmacology. So parasitology, that being the study of parasitic worms. Parasite includes, you might have heard of tapeworms, mosquitoes are parasites, all that fun stuff, or not really fun stuff. And pharmacology is the study of drugs and the interaction of drugs in a living organism. So that's what my PhD is on. I completed my bachelor's of science. I also, which a lot of people don't know, is I have formal teacher education training, and that's through my bachelor's of education that I was able to complete after my bachelor's of science degree. Upon beginning my master's degree at the university, I quickly realized that I was very much in love with the science, the research, the lab, everything about what I was doing. So after 1 year of my master's, I transferred directly into my PhD, and that's where I am today. 4 years later, I was hoping to, be finishing up my experiments and finishing up my PhD to defend, hopefully in the fall. We'll see how that goes with some of these with all of these closures, but I am taking full advantage of being at home and writing all that I can, reading everything that I can. So I think we're looking good. And just on the screen, what you see here, I'm sharing some fun photos. So to the right of the screen, me in the green t-shirt with that green face paint on my face, that was my very first day at the university at orientation back in 2011. If you look at the photo beside that with me and my friends, it looks like we're studying. We studied hard for biochemistry in second and third year, and this was our typical spot of where we would study. And then the photo of me in the lab, that is one of the first chemistry labs that I did during my undergrad. And I believe we were making acetaminophen crystals. So that's what I'm showing at the end. I was super excited because I got a whole plate of crystals at the end of that experiment. So that's just some fun stuff. But I'm going to dive right into the juice and the meat of this talk and what I hyped up on my Instagram stories today. And that is growing up. So how I grew up. So don't be afeared by some of these photos. I was quite the adventurous kid growing up. I loved animals. If there was an animal and I could touch it and I could catch it and I could take a picture with it, you bet that's what I was doing. So on the left of the screen, you see me with a giant snake on my around my neck. I saw a man with a snake and he was letting people take pictures with it. And I thought, that's what I want to do. So where is this all going? I guess I want to highlight what I did as a child during my spring and summer break. So what I really enjoy doing. And one of the main things that I enjoyed doing in the summer months, especially, was frog catching. So I live right next to a creek. And in that creek, there are quite a few little ponds. And back when I was a kid, it was very underdeveloped. So there was a lot of wildlife in these creeks. And one of the things that was of a huge quantity were these frogs. And me and my friends and all the neighborhood kids, we would go down every day with buckets and nets, and we would go and catch these frogs. Not to do anything with, we just wanted, the challenge of catching the frog. And then once we caught it, we'd be like, all right, sweet, I caught the frog, put it back, and go on with our day. And we would have these amazing adventures in the forest catching these frogs. In addition to that, something that we really loved in the springtime, especially when it rained a lot, was catching and saving the worms on the sidewalks. So here, when it's raining and all the worms come out of the grass and they, move on to the sidewalk area, and then unfortunately a lot of them get stepped on or squished on the road. I really hated that. So we would go with big buckets and we would pick up all of these worms, and then we would use the worms. Worms are great in your grass in the summer, in the springtime. So we'd take them and we would spread them all over our grass and let them have, a happy life. Um, so that was my obsession with worms and frogs. And when I talk about my research, you're really going to see how that obsession with worms and frogs started at a very young age. And I don't know how it followed me to where I am now with my research that I do. And I didn't really make this connection until fairly recently. And I realized, wow, I see why I love frogs so much. And yeah, really, really kept with me. But to go from that, in addition to my love for saving worms, I also grew up and I loved fishing. And between everyone in our family, because I wasn't really scared of touching animals. If I saw a fly or whatever, I wasn't scared. So it was my responsibility to take the worms, the live worms or bait as you would call it, and attach it to the hooks and give it to everybody to do their fishing. So I wasn't scared of it. And on the side, you can actually see me. I think that was in my first year of university. I'm wearing my university sweatshirt, and I caught a little fish there. But yeah, I wasn't scared to get down and dirty. You can clearly see that with me with clay all over my body in front of the in front of the lake there. But yeah, I wasn't afraid to get down and dirty and touch those animals and play with them. Another cool image I want to show is the crab that you can see on my arm. So this was when I actually went to Cuba back, I don't know how many years ago. It was a long time ago, but it was during a season where crabs essentially just roamed all over the ocean, all over the island. And we were actually staying on an island just outside of Cuba, so it wasn't the mainland Cuban island. For those of you who don't know, there are actually islands that surround Cuba, and it was just roaming with crabs. I wish I could show you all of these pictures, but these little guys, these little orange guys, they would crawl into the pool and they would all be on the bottoms of the pool and people would be freaking out. And it was my mission essentially to catch them all and release them onto the grass area. So A, people weren't scared. B, I loved catching them and setting them free. And I wasn't really scared of them. So that's again just showcasing my love for animals and getting down and dirty. Now, in addition for my love for animals, I also always, as a kid, I loved home experiments. And now my parents can definitely attest to this. I think they enjoyed my passion for home experiments, but for all of those parents out there, I'm sure you can imagine that these home experiments can get awfully messy sometimes. And we had this set that I think we got from the shopping network, and it was called 101 concoctions for kids. And it was just different things you could concoct together. Well, you can imagine that when I was done with those 101 concoctions and experiments for kids, I looked for different things that I could concoct. So I would just make my own bowls of potion or science experiments, whatever you want to call it. And one day that got a little bit out of hand, and it got a lot over the carpet, and caused my parents a little bit of a headache. But it was fun, and it showed my passion and my desire to create things and explore things. And I was constantly asking questions and wanting to try new things. And one of those new things that I was wanted to try, I'm going to get to this baby photo right here on the left with all that red all over my face and legs. So don't worry, guys, that's not blood. What that is red pen. And I thought I learned about, I don't know how I learned this. It was probably with my older brother. We were playing around, but I wanted him to trace all the veins in my body. And how else to trace veins then with blood colored markers? So we gathered, this was before my parents woke up in the morning. We gathered all of the red pens and markers in the house and proceeded to trace my veins all over my body. You could imagine my mom waking up to that, was terrified. Fair enough. I was covered in red. Luckily it was all safe. Might have taken a few days to get off, but again, that just showed my desire, and also my brother's desire at the time, to really explore different things and try tracing the veins on your body. Why not? So this just goes to highlight my childhood and my love for animals, specifically frogs and worms, which I will showcase their significance right now. Fast forward 10-15 years, here I am in university. I'm completing my PhD, and I'm noticing that my PhD is very similar to my upbringing. Specifically, the work that I do, I am studying drug targets in parasitic worms. And we're studying these drug targets in hopes for the development of new pharmaceuticals later on down the line. Now, these parasitic worms, although they are fairly microscopic, when I first started learning about them in my undergrad, I was fascinated with them. And I'm assuming that this fascination with worms began way back when I was a child, and I was collecting those worms on the sidewalk. So worms on the sidewalk have now turned into worms in my lab that I am studying for drug development. Now, how we study these drug targets in these parasitic worms is actually by injecting the proteins, or the RNA, which encodes proteins. But to keep it simple, we inject these proteins into frog eggs, believe it or not, into frog eggs. And the frog eggs are actually able to read the instructions for that protein and express the protein on the membrane of the egg. So if you think about it, just like eggs that are in females, like as human beings, our eggs, they're single cells. So they are one singular cell that you can actually see with the naked eye. Specifically, I'm talking about the frog eggs that you can see with the naked eye. The eggs in us, we can't see with the naked eye. But if you see here, that plate there, it looks like a bunch of black and white dots. That's a plate full of these frog eggs. And essentially we take this needle, this really microscopic needle that you can see in the middle here, and I'm gonna actually use my laser pointer. There we go. So you can see right here, we use one of these needles to inject that protein into the eggs right here, and then we're able to test the eggs. So again, you can kind of see a parallel between my childhood and my research, where I was catching frogs back then. And I guess that gave me the skill for catching frogs, because we house these frogs in our research facility. And whenever we do small surgeries where we remove a small portion of the eggs, I have to go in and catch the frog and bring it into the lab. Don't worry, the frogs are all good. We do a small little incision, and then it's stitched back up, and it's back in the tank with its friends and chilling, living life, having a good time. And we're able to obtain a crazy amount of data just from that one little frog egg. So every week my my happiness, not my happiness, but my success in the lab is very dependent on the success of these eggs. So we treat these frogs as good as possible, because the happier the frog is, the better the eggs that they produce. And with good eggs, the better the data that I'm able to collect from it. So it kind of comes full circle, and we gotta treat them well. So right over here on the left, you can see me in front of, this is our surgery table. So this is where we conduct that small incision that I was speaking on. Once we collect all of the data, at this rig right here that you can see. So here I'm testing these frog eggs, and we test them with these 2 electrodes. Essentially, they're able to record whether or not the egg is responding to the drug that we are putting on it, or if it's not responding. And the degree of the response tells us how that protein functions. The better the response, the better that drug, or the better for the potential of that drug in further development down the line. Now, once we collect all that data of me sitting at this rig, honestly, guys, I sit at this rig on testing day for 5, 6, 7 hours straight sometimes. It's a lot, but when the data is flowing and when the eggs are good and everything's going well, you really got to put in the time, because sometimes, especially in the summer months, there's problems with the quality of the eggs. The frogs really don't like large changes in temperature. They don't like high humidity, and they don't like that high pressure that we experience in the summer months. So it kind of decreases the quality of the eggs. So not a lot of data collection we don't get to have a lot of data collection at that time. But nonetheless, we're able to collect as much as we can. And then here I am on the left, I'm presenting that data at a conference this was a conference specific for studying parasitic worms. Pretty cool. And then I just added this little photo down at the bottom, childhood dream of mine. Bill Nye the Science Guy came to my school this year, and I was fortunate enough to be able to meet him and take a picture, and that was pretty cool. So I couldn't keep that out of my study, out of my presentation, sorry. So a little something that you may not know, aside from my research, is that a lot of people think, if you're in science, you've been in love with science your whole life. And yes, I've always been interested in science, but my other passion has always been art. And this was really evident because I pursued art courses all throughout my elementary and high school life. And I just wanted to showcase with you some of the art projects that I created over the years. They might seem a little interesting, but I was really into like rock music, and I don't know what you would call it now, but this art piece, for example, this was based off of a song that I was listening to, and it had different components in it. And yeah, I can't really honestly remember the whole thing, but this project right here with my faces, that was a really fun one. So this was essentially, if you look here on the left, those are photographs of my face, and slowly, little by little, those photographs are transitioning into a painting of my face. So once we get to the left here, that is fully my face painted, and that was a really fun one to do. And then right over here with this French fry box, in my grade 12 year in high school, the art class that I was taking, we had to do an art installation piece. So what this is, it's an art piece that you get to install in some location inside the school. And it had to have function and purpose to it. So I had a brilliant idea of making a French fry box with these French fries in it. But what you can't see in this photo is that each of those French fries is actually a broom cover. And I installed this installation piece inside our cafeteria. And it was to help, encourage people after they were done their lunch, if anything fell on the floor, to broom it up. So it was a French fry box. It fit in the cafeteria, and it served the purpose of helping keep our cafeteria clean. And this is probably one of my most proud moments because it was so large, and I thought it was the most brilliant idea at the time. Actually, I'm still pretty shocked that I thought of it back then. It was really fun to do. My art teacher was really happy with how it turned out. So, and it actually stayed there all for the remainder of the semester. So that was fun. And now to kind of tie the art into the science, this picture down here, this pink, it's actually a catapult. In grade 12 physics, we had to design and make these catapult systems to showcase the quadratic movement of objects when they're thrown. So of course there was, I think, me and maybe a couple other girls in the grade 12 physics class. There weren't many of us, so we thought, we're going to paint our catapult pink. We're going to make a statement. And this was the catapult. We cut all the wood ourselves. We hammered it together, made it all. And this was actually it outside on the tarmac when we were testing the distance that it was able to catapult objects across the road. So that was this one right here. And now the reason I'm talking about the art is because on the first slide, and I'll go back to it in a second, you can see that, and also on my Instagram page, you can see that I've started to incorporate art into my everyday science communication. And this is something that I introduced just under a year ago. This summer will be 1 year since I introduced it. And I just thought, I am passionate about art and I love makeup, and I think I'm pretty good at it. And I found myself in grad school, I was kind of falling down into a funk, and I was trying to fit this mold of what a scientist should be and do everything that I saw, other people were doing. Like, that's what makes you a scientist. But I was finding that I wasn't necessarily happy with what I was doing because I wasn't always passionate about it. And something I was passionate about was art and the makeup. So I thought, I'm going to incorporate, that passion of mine into how I communicate my science. And one day I just sat down, I was like, I'm going to try and draw DNA on my face. And I did it, and I was like, wow, okay, this actually worked out. And I shared it with my followers, and I had a really great response from people. And I thought, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to showcase to everyone that you can do both. That means you can be a scientist and you can be creative and you can have other passions, whether that be art, music, dance, like any other passion that you may have, sports, fitness, cooking, anything. And you can find a way to incorporate that passion into how you communicate your science. So that's why I started on with that makeup and science communication. And I'm really happy with how it has gone, and the fun art pieces that I get to share with you all. So that is my story in a nutshell. If I had hours, I feel I would be able to talk forever about this. But for now, I just want to talk, to showcase a little bit moving forward what I want to do. And that is, I am graduating soon. I'm hoping to defend in the fall. And then I want to continue on with my passion for teaching. As I mentioned, I have my bachelor's of education. I am a trained teacher, and I'm hoping to pursue that teaching at the post-secondary level moving forward. And this is just a little image of me during my 3-minute thesis. I won the 3-minute thesis competition at my university last year. And then here's a picture of me in the lecture hall. And I'm hoping one day I will be on the other side of this lecture hall, and I will be presenting to a class full of students like that and like yourself. So with that, I want to say thank you. And if you have any questions, I would love to hear from you.
Outstanding. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. We'll keep that up on the screen right now with all your Twitter handles. I've already put it in the YouTube chat bar. And then what I'd love you to do is, as we dive into questions, bring up your Instagram page for a second so we can see some of these pictures of you with these amazing pieces of artwork you've done with yourself. I
Yeah.
think it's really great for people who've never seen you before and are experiencing you through this the first time.
Yes.
Everyone tuning in on YouTube, welcome in. Let me know where you're joining from, and I really look forward to your questions. So type whatever you'd like in the chat bar, and we'll take as many as we can before we wrap up today. So our first question for you, Sarah, is from Emily Calandrelli, who got you involved with us to begin with.
Hi.
Tuning in on all our sessions for SciComm story times, we really appreciate that. She wanted to know, how long does it take you to do one of your makeup, the artistic makeup for one of your Instagram posts?
Yeah, so it honestly varies depending on how detailed that piece is and how creative I'm feeling at the time. So, but on average, probably an hour and a half, maybe. So I always try and block out, maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours to do the makeup look and then get my partner to come on over and take all the photos of it. But yeah, roughly around that time. I mean, sometimes it may be a little bit faster if it's not as detailed oriented, but for the most part, an hour and a half, an hour and a half.
Super cool. Quick follow up on that. Do you sketch it out first? Like, do you have a plan of action before you go?
No, I don't sketch it out. I look for imagery online and stuff for how, something that I kind of want to portray. But I often find myself starting with an idea, and then by the end of the look, it's completely different than what I originally planned, just because as I'm doing it, I get an idea or my creative juices are flowing. So it kind of changes from there. But I always have some sort of a plan in mind of what I want to paint on my face, and then I kind of just let myself go with it. And of course, if it's something really complex, I always have, a picture on my phone of what I'm trying to portray.
Fantastic. Let's bring up some of these. We got to see some, Sarah.
Yeah.
I got to see some. I'm excited.
Okay, I am going to
If you
um
come out of screen share and go back to just share general screen, it should work.
yep.
Perfect. Oh, you have a laser pointer. Might be difficult to do with a laser pointer. People have
Oh,
had trouble with that. Sorry.
okay.
So while you're doing that, I'll just highlight for everyone tuning in again that this is part of our SciComm Storytime series. So every day, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, we've been featuring amazing science communication rock stars from around the globe. We're going to be continuing to do that for the next few weeks as this continues and everyone's stuck at home. So we really appreciate you tuning in. Check it out on our YouTube channel and then see what's out there.
Okay.
Sort of half back. No, still
Okay.
in the. That's okay. Worst case.
I'm doing it right now. I got my page up and I'm going to stop sharing and then I'm going to start sharing again. And you can see it right now.
Perfect. Thank you so
You
much.
see them?
So explain what some of these are to us for people at home.
Yeah, so I'll bring up this one because this is very relevant to right now. So this is just a picture of the novel coronavirus on my face. I tried to highlight some of those key portions of the virus and how it uses those components to infect a cell. So this was one of my most favorite recent looks. And if I go down, another one of my favorite looks was this one. So this is a virus and it's a phage virus and it's infecting a cell, which is my eye on one side, and then going through the lytic cycle where those viruses are replicating and then bursting through a cell and going all over my face. So this is another really fun one of mine. And I will go. Oh, I have a chromosome here. This was really fun to do. Yeah, this was actually really fun. So this would be, I guess, one of those looks that was fairly simple to do and wouldn't take me. I think this one took me maybe half an hour to do, not too long. But then something like this, for example, where I am showcasing the process of cell division on my face, it's a lot more detail oriented, and I wanted to make sure that all my chromosomes lined up, and the science was sound. So this one took a little bit longer, but yeah, again, really, really fun look to do. And then I will show you, oh, not wanting to come up, but
Dun,
that's
dun, dun,
okay.
dun, dun.
I am going to show you just one more look that I find, which is really, really been fun for me.
These
Really
are
fun.
beautiful, by the way. You do such amazing artwork.
Thank you so much.
Is there anyone, while this is waiting to load, is there anyone else that's doing any work like this? Or are you like, I mean, you're unique in my experience. I've never seen anyone do this sort of work. Is there someone else you know or colleagues of yours around the world that are?
No, there, I don't, do you see the DNA right now?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah. So this is my first look, the DNA look. And no, that's actually something I haven't seen anyone do this. I follow, a few makeup bloggers myself and people who do makeup art on their face. And trust me, there are some amazingly, incredibly talented people out there who do it. But I haven't come across anybody who does science in the form of makeup on their face. So it's something pretty new, and I think I might be one of the first, or the first person to do it. But yeah, so no, I don't think there's anyone doing it.
Very cool. Well, I have a personal question, and I mean, I love this throughout our SciComm Storytime series in that there's been some people that are really inspiring in unique ways. And so going through your Instagram page, I mean, you get so much recognition for the science that you're sharing, but also for the fact that you're doing this with makeup and beauty in a way that most people aren't. So I see some of the comments. I'm sure anyone can go on and see the comments, but how fulfilling is it for you to hear that sort of recognition and feedback from people that you're doing something that is really inspiring people that otherwise might not have seen a place for themselves in science?
Honestly, I think that's what means the most to me. And when I not only am I inspiring people with makeup, but I'm inspiring people to really be who they are and not feel bad or feel like they can't express themselves in the way that they feel like they want to. And I can't tell you enough how many messages I get from people, especially when I first launched this makeup on my page, from people saying, I've always been scared to I was told I can't do my music career, my music stuff anymore. And this specifically specifically a story, but somebody was really into playing piano, and they were told that they have to stop spending so much time playing the piano and practicing piano because now they were in grad school and they were doing research. And I was like, no, like, you need those creative outlets, and if that's something you're passionate about and something you're happy and makes you happy, then keep doing it, because that's what's going to give you the motivation, and it's going to help build you up on those days where grad school just feels like it's crashing down on you. And so that is really why I'm here. I love educating people. I'm trying to inspire people, and I'm just trying to, change the mentality of what a scientist is and who a scientist should be. And scientists, there shouldn't be one definition for who a scientist is, because we're all scientists. Like, there's so many different scientists out there that I'm just trying to showcase one type, or one person who's trying to do science in their own way, and show people that they can do it in their own way. So to get back to your question, I know a long answer, but it means the world to me.
It really, so right on. You rock. That's very cool. What a great answer. Couldn't have thought it better myself. And I love that you spend time with a long answer. And I also love that you highlight the difficulties graduate students face. So this is something that a lot of people shy away from, that graduate school, whether it's a MD, PhD, master's degree, can be really trying and difficult for people. And if there are ways like this that can inspire people to see the magic behind it, that's a really, really valuable thing. So kudos to you.
Hmm.
All right, and then from that, we're going to dive in with some heavy-duty science questions. So we've got the hip hop MD Maynard for tomorrow, SciComm Storytime presentation, and he wants to know, what area of parasitology or a specific type of parasite are you most interested in diving into further?
So the parasite that I am studying, it's known as the barber pole worm, and this worm infects livestock animals like cattle, goats, and sheep. And what it does, like most parasites do, they feed on the blood of the animal or the host that they are infecting. So this is the parasite that I've been studying now for almost 6 years. But I am very interested in mosquitoes. Mosquitoes, they're not parasitic worms, but mosquitoes are parasites, and also ticks, because ticks are really, like, I feel like they're a hot topic every summer. And because we're seeing how Lyme disease actually propagates in ticks, I'm really interested. That would be another cool parasite to study a bit further. But right now, my focus is strictly on parasitic worms. But parasites as a whole fascinate me. I like how they all, they have crazy life cycles. It's unreal. Okay, so I'm sorry, I got to tell you this story. Um, because I learned this at a parasitology conference last year. And this is a story from the 70s, so it didn't happen anytime recently. But it's a story about two grad students, and they were kind of butting heads in their research lab, and they were studying this parasite. I'm not going to get into names or anything, but they were studying this parasite, and one of the researchers was so mad at his colleague that he thought, I'm going to try and hinder his research in some way. So what did he do? He added these parasites to that researcher's milk so that the researcher was consuming these parasites. Now, what's even crazier is that these parasites, their life cycle, once they're in the stomach of the host, when the host coughs, or when they cough, and any reflux, those parasites come up through your esophagus, and they go down into your airway, into your lungs, and that's where they cause their damage. So this person started having, problems. Don't worry, the person is living, they survived, they're all healthy now, they're okay. But when the person got admitted to the hospital, the doctors and the scientists had no idea how to deal with this infection, because these parasites had never infected humans before. They had never been shown to be present in human lungs. So crazy story. I mean, something like this, I feel like, could only happen back in the 70s like that. But yeah, so please don't, if you're mad at your colleague, just don't poison their milk with parasites. It's not a nice thing to do, but it makes for a funny story later on.
Next time for your subtitle for the session, we're just going to have the line, if you're mad at your colleague, don't poison their milk with parasites. That's a glorious line. Thank you. That's never been said in the history of exploring by the seat of your pants. Sarah, before one last question, if you want to come back on a screen share so we can see you, make sure, that would be fantastic. So this has been so great. To wrap up, I mean, you've highlighted this in a number of ways in the presentation and the Q&A, but if you're to share one last thing with kids who are tuning in at home about how to get themselves interested in science, interested in makeup and beauty, anything that you do, how do we get kids inspired and excited?
How do we get kids inspired and excited? So first off, don't be scared. Don't hesitate. If you want to try something, I know personally my fear has stopped me from doing a lot of things in life. And I know once I took the step and I tried it, I found something that I was really in love with, hence the makeup and the science on my face. But honestly, don't be scared of trying new things. And just because you don't think that something is necessarily right for you, unless it's not until you try it that you know if it really is a fit or not. So line that I love sharing at the end of a lot of talks that I do when I'm giving them to high school or elementary school students is never close a door that you haven't tried walking through, because you never know what's on the other side unless you open that door and you go and you try.
Fantastic. Couldn't wrap it up better if I tried. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sarah. We really appreciate it. And for everyone tuning in at home on YouTube, continue to check out our SciComm Storytime series. Check out our YouTube list. Every session we've ever done has been archived there, so you can find out more on any topic you can imagine. But do come back to this one, because this is our only time we've ever covered makeup. One of the only times we've ever covered parasitology, actually. So we really appreciate you guys tuning in. And Sarah, thanks again so very much for joining us today.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Have a nice day, everyone. Bye.